it is just about taking people out for dinner and relationships when you have great products. When you
Yeah.
don't have great products, it requires a lot of strategy and motivation of specifications for great products. I mean, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, we just want to use the best technology available. And so it's a combination of all elements. It could be product, it could be positioning of that product, or really good people, right? And act, you said this to me a million times at this stage already. It's like act is 50% people and 50% products. Yes, of course, you think of it in terms of its distribution, but the people in this organization are really what make those connections happen with that user base that needs to trust us, right? And this is still, I don't care what happens in this industry, it will always be about trust with your partners.
Hello and welcome to Keys of Gear. So I'm happy that you could join me today. Another great episode, of course, and aren't they all? I'm really digging the guests that we've been getting. Sarah's knocking it out of the park right now. And so, yeah, I actually have an update on Sarah, by the way, which I'll get to in a minute. So first, today's guest actually is joining us for an event called X Live at LDI on December 6th. So it's the day before LDI. You might be hearing this after that, and therefore just fast forward a little bit because it's not going to matter to you because it's already in the past. But if you are listening to this as it is launched, you are going to still have an opportunity to register for both X Live and Dining with Dinosaurs at LDI this year. Both are incredible events. I happen to be involved with both. Dining with Dinosaurs is ours, of course, but X Live is something that we've gotten involved with and helped put together because I do believe in what they're doing there. And so X Live really is like a mini one-day set of concert sessions, basically, or a conference, or it's really just, it's 3 or 4 different sessions that have moderators. I'm the moderator of one of them. The one that I'm a moderator of is called Show Wreckers, which I know is shocking given who I am. But just a few really, really great sessions with great people involved in them, great panelists. And I think it's going to be a huge success. And I know it's part of the Young Professionals, Young Something Pass at LDI, but it's also available as part of the Dining with Dinosaurs ticket, which I believe is $129, and you can still get today, although it's very close to selling out. So if you're interested in getting into X Live, buy the Dining with Dinosaurs ticket, and you'll get in as part of that. Secondly, Dining with Dinosaurs, which I've mentioned already, is an incredible list of industry legends. And we just added another one, Mark Brickman, just a few days ago. I read over this list, and it's like, pinch me. This is going to be an incredible, incredible evening. And so Dining with Dinosaurs starts at 5:30 in the afternoon on the 6th. With a happy hour. So there are drinks involved and there's food involved as well. Otherwise it would be called Drinking with Dinosaurs as opposed to dining. And so really it's a panel and a lot of joking and a lot of fun. And then some round tables where you will be able to get up close and personal with these folks, these people that we've pulled together. And there's a list of those people available on the LDI website, but trust me, they are legends of our industry. There's, I believe, 20 or 21 of them now. Sadly, only 2 women. We tried for more, but this year we got 2. Last year it was only 1, so we're stepping up. And I believe that's Carol Dodds and Nancy May, who I just had on the podcast last week and was a lot of fun. So again, I believe it's $129. You can still get tickets at the LDI website. it will be well worth being here. I can't even begin to tell you the people that are going to be in that room, not just the dinosaurs, but also visitors who are coming, people I know who have already acquired tickets to this event. So it's going to be quite the event. And then last, I just want to mention our friends at Coffee Cult who make our private labeled coffee stash that I drink every day. I actually have one of them going right here. This wasn't a prop. I'm actually drinking a coffee. I should say drank. It's all gone now. But Coffee Cult created a special blend for us called Geezer's Grind. And all of the proceeds from that go to Roby Backstage to help people in our industry who need help, people who are injured, etc. You can check out Roby Backstage on their website. But very, very good company, very good coffee. And I'd love for you to go to coffeecult.com with K's, coffee with a K, cult with a K.com. Search for Geezer's Grind. It's sort of what I would call a little bit between medium and dark. It's a little more on the dark side, probably. It's a special blend that they made for us. It's great. I drink it every day. I love it. And so check it out. And again, you're supporting the industry by supporting a great cup of coffee as well. So today's guest, James Oliver, is a veteran strategist and executive in the professional audio and entertainment technology industry. Currently, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at ACT Entertainment, James leads the company's new professional audio division and drives growth for some of the most influential brands in live sound. Previously, James helped PK Sound achieve 600% growth and expanded Adamson Systems, before that, global reach. A Juno-nominated recording artist with the Strumbellas. I didn't know this part. James brings a rare perspective from both the stage and the boardroom, shaping how technology and artistry meet on the world's biggest stages. So here we go. It's always freezing there.
Yeah, true.
You're in Winnipeg or something, aren't you?
No, Toronto.
Oh, Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a really good Maple Leafs meme yesterday. Something about the what's the Titanic and the Maple Leafs have in common. They're both at the bottom of it at the Atlantic.
Yeah.
What was it? I sent it to Howard Ungerleider. Hang on, let me look that one up because it's a good one.
Yeah, you need to pull me right out of the gate, eh?
Yeah, I got to get you with this one. They are in trouble when they hit the ice, and they're both at the bottom of the Atlantic. That's what it was.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome for that.
Yeah.
So it's always fun. You know, Toronto reminds me of the hockey version of the New York Jets because every year they're going to the Super Bowl. We've got Aaron Rodgers. We're going to the Super Bowl this year. You know, there's not like we're going to win 8 games this year instead of the 2 that we won last year. It's always we're going to the Super Bowl. And same with Toronto, of course. And let's face it, it hasn't happened in a minute. So
fair enough. But if your goal is not even to make the playoffs, to win a few more games, what are we doing here? Everybody wants the cup.
That is true. There's a difference between wanting it and announcing it on the front page of the New York Times or whatever, though. You know,
fair enough.
But Toronto is the hardest hockey market there is. Like I can't imagine being a player or a coach and wanting to go to Toronto, you know.
Well, I tell you, if you look out on our streets, just anywhere in Southern Ontario, there is every street filled with a kid trying to put a puck in the back of the net. And so you start to look at it.
Huge.
And you go, well, no wonder Canadians are, excel at hockey. You know, you go to the US, though, it's 15 different sports where you have that level of
it's totally true.
Yeah.
Well, I remember Roberto Luongo. I'm in South Florida for half the year and Calgary the other half of the year, so I get to win sometimes at least. And but so I'm in South Florida right now. But I remember Luongo when he got traded to Vancouver. I saw an interview with him, and they asked him how he liked it in Vancouver, and he said, it's a whole different ball game. Like in South Florida, you can go shopping, you can go to the restaurant with your family, you can do whatever the hell you want and nobody recognizes you. Maybe 1 or 2 people a day.
Mm.
But in Vancouver, God, like it doesn't matter where you are, you're just bombarded by either media or fans.
Oh,
And Toronto's probably that times 10.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough market. And I love though how just completely rabid the fans are and how crazy hockey is in that town. And I mean, we see it in South Florida because whenever you guys play here on a Saturday, they sell like junkets to come to South Florida, and it's 50% Toronto fans, or Montreal, same thing.
No, I mean, it's across that with every Toronto sports team. You look at what the Blue Jays did this year.
Amazing.
1 game away from the World Series, but any ballpark in the United States,
one slide away from the World Series.
All right.
I don't even watch baseball, and it pissed me off. I was like, "What are you doing?"
We've had some great internal rivalry over at ACT. Ben, being a New Yorker, Bob Boniel's from Seattle. We got to both, have a lot of fun with those series.
Yeah. Ben's a big baseball guy. I forgot about that. He likes the Yankees.
Yeah.
It is the Yankees, right? Not the Mets. Yeah, it's the Yankees. Yeah. Who was a Mets fan? Oh, you wouldn't know him probably. Jonathan Resnick from Barbizon. He was a huge Mets and Jets fan, and he passed away a few years ago, sadly. But him and I used to argue about football pretty much every call we got on, just prior to talking shit about PRG. So yeah, but so you must be in the middle of getting ready for a lighting convention to go show your audio products at a lighting convention.
Yeah, it's like a hockey fan in Florida. You know what I mean? A sound guy at a lighting convention. But
lost. Just basically lost. What are you doing here?
Yeah, nobody knows me. I'm like Luongo, walking around Florida in the mall, getting away with it.
Yeah. Have you got time for a meeting? Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I didn't say when. Yep. Sure. I got time. But you know what though? It reminds me of when I was at Martin in the very early days. We started doing the NAMM show, like before hardly anyone did the NAMM show back then from a lighting standpoint. And we started going to the NAMM show, and they'd put us like in the hallway between the main convention center and the Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were in that hallway there. And people would just trip over you by accident on their way to the Hilton and go, "What's this stuff?" Oh yeah, my buddy works at a music store and they're starting to sell lighting.
Okay.
And, before you know it, you had customers that you never in a million years would have met otherwise.
Mm.
And so I like that. Like I like being sort of a special little, jewel in this big box of rocks. Not that lighting companies are rocks, but I just mean like being different, being unique. And there can't be a lot of lighting companies or a lot of sound companies at LDI.
No, they try every year to do they reach out to all the major vendors, but it's never really caught the way lighting.
Yeah.
RZI Lighting. Planning a show, festival, or event in New Orleans? You've got to check out RZI Lighting, your go-to crew for all things lighting, rigging, and special effects. Since 1999, RZI has been lighting up the Gulf Coast with top-tier equipment, expert service, and that friendly, personal touch that keeps productions running smoothly. Whether you need rentals, sales, or labor support, their dedicated team has you covered every step of the way. From automated fixtures and truss to staging and effects, even consumables like gel, gaff tape, and fluids, RZI's got it all under one roof. They even offer on-site repairs and stock both new and pre-owned gear, so you're never left in the dark. For 25 years, they've been the trusted name in event production across Louisiana and beyond. So if you want your next show to shine, visit rzilighting.com. That's rzilighting.com.
But you do okay, I'm sure. Like, who was it I was talking to? Robert from he was with Void at the time.
Yep.
And he told me, I love LDI. He said, but I mean, that's more of a club line, obviously, but but he said he did really well. It was one of his favorite shows. He loved going to LDI because the people that did talk to you were pretty serious.
Yeah.
They weren't just punters.
Well, no, I mean, you still get company owners that, that carry all three sort of video, lighting, and audio products. So,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, there's going to be the majority of the industry there. Just that focal point becomes that lighting technology and what are we launching this year? And
right.
yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you make a good point. Like there are a lot more sort of 360 companies now, and even the ones who aren't yet are trying to become that. Um so yeah, I think well, I hope you do well. I'll see you there. I'll be there uh Friday, I guess. I get in cuz
act,
I got to do the X Live and the
act,
Dining with Dinosaurs. Sorry?
act always shows up in a big way. So,
Oh, hell yeah. 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 I used to sit and have my first couple of drinks with Ben as he was whining about how much money they had to spend this year for drayage or something, and it was like, yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I did it for too many years. And I know it's more expensive now than it was, but yeah, it's not like it was cheap back then either. Like I remember my first really big booth with Martin,
okay.
and we got the drayage bill and it was like 60 grand or something. And I'm like, $60,000 for what? It's like, what am I actually, for you to take the stuff from over there with a forklift to over here, I'm paying 60 grand. Yep. You want to argue about it? you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's an
Yeah.
unbelievable arc.
We'll take you out for a little rowboat ride on the river and see how you do. So, anyways, you've been on an incredible journey, and I was reading a bit about your bio before you got on today, and one of the things I didn't know is that you were a musician. Well, I think first you were in the like creative world, marketing and creative and advertising and stuff, and then into music. So that's quite a path to get to the audio business. Like you could have just come straight in, you know that, right?
Well, you want to get a good job out of school, right? And you're like, well, how am I going to fund? And you probably know this, but being a Canadian musician has the longest drive you could ever imagine between gigs. So you better have a
That is
full-time
true.
job in the meantime.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I had to go like from Alberta to playing I think it was called the A4 in Saskatoon. I'm a little older than you. And then to Winnipeg.
Mhm.
And it's like, what? To make how much? $200 a week?
Yeah.
So
There were some hard times on the circuit. So naturally, I worked for some pretty major ad agencies in between,
yeah.
DV being one of them. Had a bit of an existential crisis. Like, what am I doing? Direct mail campaigns for Dell computers. That's a lot of garbage being created.
Yeah.
The era of mail.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
said, okay, well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to be a musician. And we're really fortunate as Canadians to at least have government funding in place that really funds cultural initiatives. And Factor grants was a big part of that. They funded our albums and our touring cycle. I got all the way to New Zealand with support from the Canadian government on tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they had that.
Yeah. No,
Geez, that would have changed my trajectory when I was a kid.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, that process leads you to putting your professional life and your musical life together and saying, how do I make a business case for my music? Because that's what a
Yeah.
Factor grant was how are we going to commercialize this thing through touring, through album sales, or whatever the case may be? And you have to really consolidate that plan, put it into something that's actionable. And I think we talked about this initially. We both learned how to sell in very challenging markets, and there's nothing more challenging than being a musician trying to sell
True.
your own creativity to the world, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, a very noisy world too. When there's, it's especially today. Oh my God. It's so easy to put musical content out now with Suno and all these AI apps and stuff.
absolutely.
It's crazy.
I mean, we fought
Crazy.
tooth and nail for our position in Toronto, and this was the era of, we saw Feist and, Arts and Crafts, a big record label out of Toronto, was really starting to grow behind Jeffrey Remedios, who's the CEO of Universal Music Canada now. And we planted ourselves at the Cameron House in Toronto and started a residency with a band called the Strumbellas. And I was telling a friend about this. We started and there's 3 people in the bar, and when we ended, there was lineups around the block. And got to this stage where we got a Juno nomination for Folk Album of the Year. and I
Wow.
just had a child and, some internal strife in the band, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna develop a career in this industry, but it's just not gonna be on the stage."
Wow. So right after you get a Juno nomination, you decide to quit
Y
being a musician.
Yeah, it was, and it was partially luck too, I looked online, I'm like, "What am I gonna do with my life?" And I grew up in a small town called Lindsay, Ontario, which is about half an hour from Port Perry, Ontario, where is the home of Adamson Systems Engineering. And, for those who don't know, it's a major loudspeaker manufacturer in our industry. And it's a company that you could argue is top five rider accepted around the world now. And I got my start there as a marketing manager, and it seemed like overnight they gave me the reins to the show. It was,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, Brock is sort of a mad genius of sound, right? Like he just seemed like I remember I probably told you this story before, but I remember going into a bar in Calgary. I hate to say it, but it was probably 40 years ago. And and I go, "Who is this band?" And they were just incredible.
Yeah.
It was Uzeb.
Okay.
Uzeb, I don't know, that's probably before your time too, but Uzeb was a crazy talented Canadian jazz trio, jazz fusion, like just crazy good band. And I talked to the bass player, I think, for a little while after, and I said, "What is this sound system? It's so small and it sounds so friggin' good." And he goes, "Oh, it's Adamson." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Adamson? What's that?" Like I hadn't even heard of it. At the time, the Martin phase plug design had just gotten pretty big, and but I hadn't heard of these little Adamson boxes, and so that was sort of my introduction to his stuff.
Yeah, Brock was a master of seeing ideas and putting them together into exceptional loudspeakers. Case in point, the Earl Getty's waveguide, which not a lot of people will understand what that meant, but an idea of a waveguide Earl's Getty's had come up with that Brock figured out how to commercialize in a way that no one else had done before that, right? That led to, Christian Howell obviously inventing the line array and Brock finding a route to develop a line array, which I believe is the first one manufactured in the North American market, with
Really?
the series. Yeah. And
I did not know that.
yeah, somebody
I
may
would have
dispute that, but I'm pretty sure it was the first one manufactured. And Y axis
And when would that have been, James?
early 2000s, I guess,
Oh, okay.
2010 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that product really made great inroads in the European market, and made okay. It did okay in the North American market, but it took off in Europe. When I joined the company, it was going toe to toe with L Acoustics in France, and
Wow.
it was really some of the partners for Adamson were located in France, and it was truly something rooted in line array theory that performed as good as L Acoustics VDOS system, and it was really one of the only solutions that in that market at that time that could compete. Um, I had an experience at Adamson. I will both wake up in the middle of the night remembering still, good and bad, but also
Yeah.
that helped shape my career, right? We talk about, Brock was a genius loudspeaker designer. There's no question about it. But where he really excels is in manufacturing infrastructure. And
Hmm.
anyone really worked in manufacturing and who has a chance to visit Adamson gets a real firsthand look. 13 work centers when I left. Everything from electronics manufacturing to transducer assemblies to, metal shop to wood shop, paint lines, final assembly all under one roof, right? And so the education I got in how to manufacture loudspeakers and technology in general was so far beyond anything you could ever achieve in school, right?
And all made in Canada.
All made in Canada and
Wow.
unique proprietary technology, from Kevlar transducers into when I left, they were setting up, pick and place lines for electronics assembly, SMT lines. Like he always went to the component level. And so that education was grueling without a doubt, but so it shaped my understanding for how products are developed, not just how most people think about products like, hey, I'll buy a new loudspeaker, but really down to its guts, how it's distributed, what components to use, how to reduce inventory, how Kanban systems work, mixed mode manufacturing, all of those principles that he introduced to me that really shaped my understanding, not just for manufacturing, not just for the technology, but how to bring products to market.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, me being Canadian, I'm proud of that kind of stuff when it comes out of Canada. Um, but I mean, it's got to be, and this obviously secondhand or firsthand again from your next endeavor, but it's just got to be really hard to compete from little old Canada with these massive European manufacturers now being D&B and L Acoustic, of course, but also JBL and, all the other ones as well. It's not like there's only two. There's Meyer, JBL, and so on, Martin. And so, like that to me is incredible that, this company out of little town Ontario is able to compete on a world scale like that. And, the funny thing is, I'm glad you said it because I thought I was just crazy, but, I operate a used equipment company, and most of the Adamson that we either sell or see sold or see for sale is in Europe. And to this day, still, it's not that popular in the United States. It's not that popular in Canada, but it's really popular in other parts of the world, particularly Europe.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. They had a really strong presence in the European market, and most Canadians or Americans that ended up touring with it, which is quite a large group of artists now, they heard it first in Europe, which is a strange thing to think about, right?
Crazy. Yeah,
I think as
crazy.
Canadians, though, we have this, at least I would say up until the maybe 2020 era, we had this sort of opinion, if you came from Canada, it wouldn't be good enough. We were really hard
Yeah,
on each other and ourselves. I think that's
yeah,
changed a lot definitely in the last year, right? With an election that was quite polarizing. But, you get to the situation where we've been really hard on each other you have to prove yourself, and then I can accept Canadian. I don't know why that
yeah,
is. It's,
yeah.
it's always been that way.
For 50 years, ETC has made a name for itself in the world of entertainment technology. You can find ETC products in buildings of every size across the entire globe. Broadway shows, rock concerts, sports stadiums, outdoor parks, TV studios, and convention centers, you name it. They have all trusted ETC to make their spaces beautiful and safe. Many of these spaces include rigging systems to keep them running smoothly and safely. Fortunately, ETC Rigging offers a range of hoists and controls to accommodate the unique needs of various production spaces and budgets. ETC's motorized hoists and hoist control systems raise theater technology, including stage curtains, lighting equipment, backdrops, projection screens, and more. And the recent addition of Prodigy Balance, a new counterweight rigging solution for loads up to 1,200 pounds, brings more options to venues looking for safe, user-friendly rigging. If you need backstage rigging that is easy to learn and safe for students and volunteers to use, Prodigy Balance could be the answer. ETC is known for its customer support and 24/7, 365 availability. But now employees have even more of a personal stake in maintaining that reputation because ETC has become 100% employee owned. Each person building the rigging systems, developing the control software, and answering support calls is actually an owner at ETC. Outstanding support, reliable products, innovative technologies. This is the foundation of excellence ETC has built over the past 50 years, and they plan to deliver more in the next 50. For the latest ETC products and installation news, visit etcconnect.com. It's funny because that's always been my attitude too. I'm my toughest critic constantly. And I think as Canadians, I always said this about the law, but it pertains to so many different things. But, like America is very litigious. Canada is getting worse now, but it didn't used to be at all. Like if you were walking down the street, Yonge Street in Toronto, and a brick fell on your head, you're like, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have been walking there. But here you'd sue the brick company, the building owner, the city sidewalk, you'd sue everybody who saw it happen. You'd just have this blanket lawsuit out there to anyone involved. And I just think as Canadians, we've always like been sort of get in line, obey the law, listen to the superiors or whatever. Very, very regimented,
Well, coming back to the Adamson story, that is not the case for Brock Adamson. He is extremely litigious, and I think that's probably why he's had so much success in the global markets.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
Interesting. Yeah. He protects his patents and stuff.
oh, he protects them fiercely and
Good for him.
protects his
Yeah.
IP fiercely, and he will go to war when required.
Well, you kind of have to at that point. Like when you're investing that kind of money into design and manufacturing and stuff, you have to. I mean, you just have no choice. And it becomes obviously very difficult when you're dealing with particularly Asian countries,
And
particularly China. They don't necessarily respect patents and IP as well as other places in the world. And so, yeah, that's interesting.
yeah,
So you went straight from there to your next gig at PK, right?
yeah, it was a half an hour break and right over to PK. I joined the ownership group of PK. I kind of started actually in a consulting role. I wanted to test the waters, right? So I can't remember what my title was, global strategy, something like that. And after a year of kind of feeling each other out, hey, is this going to work? I joined full time as chief strategy officer and spent just under or just over 5 years with PK, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did they have the technology that they have, the moving boxes? Did they have that when you joined?
Yeah, they had Trinity and T10.
Okay.
Really, where I entered the playing field, I guess we'll call it, with PK is they were ready. They were a production company at this point that sold product to
Yeah.
its customers,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
I
so,
forgot. Yeah. They transitioned from making it for themselves
yeah,
to making it for other people.
right. Yeah. So when you saw the technology, you got the feel for this was somebody who had designed a product because they knew how it was used, right? It's not robotics for the sake of having robotics. It's robotics because of its efficiencies, its safety, its performance enhancements. And these guys, they figured out after first setting it up in a more traditional line source sense, moving into robotics, they figured out how to make it as close to perfect of a deployment as you can get. And I recognized that right away. I was like, guys, this is cool. The efficiency's great. But the challenges I faced with my career at Adamson, we need to address these head on, right? And, I sort of developed a philosophy of how to build brands and products at that stage. And one of the big issues, we're already in this privileged position where you've got performance sort of locked up. And when that's there, you kind of got to go through these rider acceptance arguments, right? Particularly in the touring. Rider acceptance is often stopped at the door by inventory availability, right? Inventory availability, once it's there, it's like, okay, well, I'll use the product, but who's going to deploy it? So that fourth pillar is the education portion. And the fifth one
Right.
is support, the thing that backs it up when it's on the road. Now, unfortunately, if you're trying to launch a loudspeaker brand today and you don't have all five of those pillars mastered, you have a huge struggle in front of you, right? Part of me joining the company, I said to Jeremy Bridge, who's the CEO of PK Sound, I said to him, we have to stop being using the product ourselves. We can't be in competition with our customers. He agreed. So I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. And that was the real trigger. I helped him craft the product roadmap that went beyond that to go after, being in competition with L Acoustics, DMB, Adamson Meyer, and the technology backbone there that's, from network endpoints to Class D amplification. And, I really worked on the software platform, which is truly unique with PK Sound because it's all one piece of software to do everything from simulation to robotic control to metering to diagnostics all on one platform. They're
Interesting.
quite an interesting piece of technology.
Yeah, it really is. When I was introduced to it a few years ago, I remember going into the showroom in Calgary because I'm from Calgary and
Yeah.
I have a place just outside of Calgary in Canmore. And so, Jeremy invited me in to come take a look around. And
Yeah.
I went in and I just remember looking up and watching this system move and reposition itself. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, why would anybody buy a system that doesn't move? Now that I've seen this one move, why would I ever want one that you can't move? That you got to drop the system and, fix whatever you got to fix and then put it back up again. Why wouldn't you? Just like the first time I saw a moving light, like, why would you want a fixed position light fixture when I can move them, And since then, like I've got some devil's advocate things that I'll throw at you that I got from the market, which I'm sure you've heard all of them.
Uh,
But I came out of there pretty excited and talked to some of my friends, whether they were front of house engineers or sound company owners or whatever, and said, have you seen this stuff? Because that's kind of what I do. The marketing world calls me a sneezer, because I go out and sneeze all over people and say, have you got this new iPhone? It's the coolest thing ever, right? Like
yeah.
I'm a marketer's either dream or nightmare, I guess. But yeah, like to me, what a cool sort of door knocker,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a
but ours moves.
yeah, it's a great, unique selling position. But, I, on purpose, I'm going to lay out the 5 things that make a successful brand, and that's just one of them. If you have performance, and in this case, it's robotics, and it's using the latest transducers from BNC, which, I mean, argue all you want. All the major manufacturers use the same transducers. So it's a flavor and a brand discussion after that. I don't care what anybody says. But there still has to be the other pillars to build confidence. And whether that's inventory availability, whether it's rider acceptance, whether it's education or support, I think that's where I sought out ACT. And I said to ACT because, for the listeners that don't know who ACT Entertainment is, it's established itself as a premium lighting distributor first and foremost. And there is such a massive infrastructure. You don't even see it until you really get into the organization. But it's like, you've got 15 people full-time on lighting support, right? On phone calls, fixing, repairing stuff. So when you see why they've been so successful at positioning premium brands, it was in complete alignment with my philosophy of how to launch products. PK, of course, had that performance thing, but I needed support across the board there. So
they're a great distributor. They're a distributor first and foremost. That's what they do really, really well.
And exceptionally well. And believe it or not, this guy, Marcel, reached out to me.
Yeah. I remember that guy.
Yeah. And he said, hey, do you know Ben Saltzman? And I said, no, I don't.
Yeah. Well, it actually came about quite naturally because I did a podcast with Jeremy after I went in and saw the factory. And I was just blown away by the technology. And I was like, let's do a podcast. And we did a podcast. And at the end of it, I kept him on and we kept talking after we stopped recording. And I said, do you have distribution in North America? And he goes, well, not really. We kind of just do what we can. And I said, would you like distribution in North America? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I know a company and it just so happened that I don't know, a week earlier, Ben had said to me, hey, we're looking to possibly grow into audio if you think of any brands out there that would be a good fit. And so I just said to Jeremy, I've got a distributor for you. They're well-funded. They've got great facilities. They've got a great, sales network and footprint out there. Really good lighting brands. They're not an audio company, but they really want to be one, and I think they'll do it right. And he said, great, introduce us. And then that's when you and I spoke and yeah. So I just think it's a great fit. And you can't put a line array company in to compete. Like you said, one of those pillars, you can't have a little company going after D&B and L Acoustic and JBL and Meyer.
No, something's going to fall through the cracks, and it might be, your ability to support your customers. It might be education. Rider acceptance, I think, is carried by both, but having inventory availability is obviously at the center of what ACT does exceptionally well. And you think about these things and you go, okay, Ben was, he's ambitious as anyone I've ever worked with or for. He kind of brought this to the table and was like, look, I want to see this thing work. We worked together as I was still chief strategy officer for PK for the first year. And at the end of the year, he said, well, why don't you come and help me build this category? And so it seemed like a natural transition for me. I was like, I want to go get more products. I want to put them into this infrastructure, and I want to make it not just a lighting distributor, but also an audio company, and be able to bring in my friend. We've spent the last, 20 years of our careers at trade shows, after hours with all of our manufacturing buddies. It's like, what was all that for if not to get together under one umbrella, right?
Hell yeah.
Too good to
Hell
be
yeah.
true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes a ton of sense. And, these days, I think that selling product is different than it used to be when I first got into the market. That's for sure. When we had to cart things around by mule and stuff. But, it was just like, today you got to have the whole package. You have to have like financing available of some sort. You have to have inventory, like you said. You have to have support. Yeah, in the old days, you could be a cowboy and just go, "Hey, this is cool, right? How many do you want?" And then you figure the rest out later. But now you got to have all your ducks in a row, and you got to have a pretty serious company and a big machine behind it all. And it's a huge investment on ACT's part, to take this on, because you don't get paid back for it for quite some time. It doesn't just happen overnight, obviously.
No, I mean, audio is different than lighting. Lighting fixtures are typically replaced every 3 years. You know what I mean? So it happens faster, and their customer base is slightly different. In audio, it's
Less brand loyalty too.
yeah,
in lighting, because lighting, a light fixture is a light fixture is a light fixture. Like, it used to be a lot of brand loyalty back in the 90s or whatever, but not anymore. Like, now everything is sort of replaceable with everything else in the lighting business.
yeah, you innovate at a faster pace, right? Like, things have to
Right.
happen at lightning speed. Thankfully, we're aligned with Ayrton and MA, which are market leaders in
Of
innovation.
course.
So it's
Yeah.
that part, we're privileged and blessed to have that. In the audio world, it's like, it's a different story, right? Because you have to take these brands, and it takes, you have a 10-year life cycle where you're going to buy a product and you have to make it work over that 10-year period. Because, like you identified, even for ACT, there's a bit longer payback here. You have to make sure it's a big expense for most companies, and it's got to make its money back over a longer period. If you're going to make an investment that's, you're going to have an ROI calculation that's a little bit longer, you have to trust your partners. And so ACT brings this
Yeah.
kind of unique, puzzle piece to the entire picture here, which is that we have this great relationship with the customers. I have literally not talked to a single audio company that doesn't have an account already set up, right? Because of our Rapco Horizon, everyone owns a cable in the entire
Power distro.
yeah, whatever
Yeah.
this power distro or
Yeah.
lighting fixtures or MA consoles, whatever it is.
Even ultimate support. This thing right
Exactly.
here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Ultimate support. Yeah.
So we have accounts with everybody on the planet. So all of the administration stuff's easy. And really, it's just about getting customers now comfortable. Okay, cool. The basis is there. And we're seeing, we saw huge growth this year in audio.
What about from a team standpoint, though? Like, you don't have the same sales team that's doing lighting out there doing audio, or you do?
Yes and no. So there is definitely a live sound regional sales management team. So it's dedicated just to the audio providers, or the audio divisions, I should say.
Yeah.
But the lighting team obviously has the same contacts with companies that buy audio and lighting. Sometimes, we joked about it earlier. Sometimes they just have different haircuts in the technical department, but generally the same person spending the money at the top. So it's really just really a fluid situation. The lighting team, some of them, the best salespeople I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so,
No, they got a great team there. No, that's why I asked, because it can be challenging to solve that problem, because I know that I've seen it go both ways. Like, for example, with Harman, they've got Martin and JBL, and they're constantly switching back and forth between sort of line managers and relationship managers.
yeah.
And the challenge with a line manager is that you might have two people riding the same elevator up to see the same purchasing guy at a company,
Yeah.
and it's like, "Hey, Bob, what are you doing here?" "Oh, well, I'm here to see John." "Oh, yeah, me too. I might be right after you. You're the 12:30. I'm the 1:00, and that's frustrating when you're a VP of sales or a CEO or whatever, to see that kind of thing happen, because meanwhile you're getting hammered on, you need to cut your costs. Like, you're spending too much money on the team or whatever. So you always want to get that dialed in right. But I mean, one of the things that's interesting about you, to blow a little smoke up your skirt, is that because you came with such a solid marketing and advertising background, you really get a lot of the sort of moving parts of a sales relationship and how to develop those ICPs and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That I think so many salespeople in our industry think it's just about your expense account and taking somebody out for dinner and stuff. That helps, but it's a little more complicated than that these
Well,
days.
it is just about taking people out for dinner and relationships when you have great products. When you
Yeah,
don't have great products, it requires a lot of strategy and motivation of specifications for great products. I mean, at the end of
yeah,
the day, we just want to use the best technology available. And so it's a combination of all elements. It could be product, it could be positioning of that product, or really good people, right? And act, you said this to me a million times at this stage already. It's like act is 50% people and 50% products. Yes, of course, you think of it in terms of its distribution, but the people in this organization are really what make those connections happen with that user base that needs to trust us, right? And this is still, I don't care what happens in this industry, it will always be about trust with your partners. It will always be about building a network where you go, okay, cool. Let's resolve
yeah.
conflict quickly so we can work together. Because as technology evolves here and interoperability becomes a bigger discussion point in product roadmaps, you know, the ability for manufacturers to function in organic settings, we're moving to a world where you're just going to have an AI prompt to change everything that's on the stage. But that doesn't happen until we have network protocol that works and speaks the language of every product, customers that understand products will be cross rented and passed amongst each other. And the closer we can get to that unity of having products and customers that can fluidly work together with partners they trust and support, the more access we're going to have to be able to do cool things.
Yeah, well said. Well said. No, I completely agree with you. And you talk about people being 50% of it. Have you met Bob Gordon, the founder of ACT and
I have,
prior owner?
I haven't had a ton of like personal time with him, but on
Yeah.
the floors, absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, that was his whole shtick, like everybody knew Bob Gordon. He did so many demos at trade shows. He talked to so many people at trade shows himself.
Yeah.
He never surrounded himself with 50 really great salespeople because he loved being the sales guy, right? And he just took care of people and single-handedly, like that guy built the two most successful consoles ever in the lighting business in this country. And so, I think the foundation of ACT was built on people and relationships and
Yeah.
those values.
It's carried over, it's matured like all companies, modern companies have. And, the priorities stay the same though. They're still
Yeah.
in relationship. If you launch a product that's a relative unknown, like, and to be honest, PK is relatively known now, I guess, at this stage, but it hasn't always been, right? And we're getting to that
Yeah.
point where you put that DNA, that ACT DNA into products, and immediately you see demands start to generate for a product because it's like,
Yeah.
I know I'm going to get taken care of. At least I know, a ethos that was developed before, carries through, and I get treated the same way I did it. I don't.
Well, and there's a certain leverage too, when you're already doing $5 million a year in business with a company and they're now looking at sound equipment or whatever, you come in with a bit of an advantage over maybe a strict sound company who, has never done business with that company before or whatever. Like they trust you, that relationship is already in place, the value has been built already.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the tough questions that I've asked on PK, because again, I came out of there like pretty blown away and like, why isn't everybody using this already? This is crazy. And so let me ask you a few questions. One, does all that additional technology cost more money?
So depends what you're comparing it to, right? We're in
The leaders.
the leaders. So that kind of fits right in the middle,
Okay.
right? I can tell you L Acoustics now is kind of a bit lower. PK is in the middle, DMB and Meyer above.
Okay. That's surprising.
Yeah,
I would have
it's
thought that L Acoustic would be the most expensive of the
metal.
three. The French like to price their stuff high.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
you're on geese
yeah.
here.
In other words, you can get basically these automated boxes for the same price as fixed position where you have to drop the rig and all that stuff. And so that's
It's a
good.
5%, variable up or down in that list.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very, they're all,
Depending on who the prime minister is and
yeah,
who he pissed off this week or whatever. And so what about weight? Does it add a huge amount of additional weight, and is that a problem?
not at all. Not at
No.
all. It's less weight than a K1, a large form
Really?
stuff. Yeah. T10, K2 are very similar, and T8's the same as Cara. If I'm just using an industry standard as an example,
Yeah.
right? So powered
Interesting.
with
Very interesting.
robotics, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
And so aren't all these actuators and stuff heavy,
yeah, yeah. I
but
mean,
you make up for it somewhere
all,
else?
you buying a big loudspeaker, it's got a
Yeah.
technology in it. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what brand it is. It's going to be relatively heavy, somewhere from 175 pounds to 300 pounds, depending on the manufacturer.
I see. So weight is not really an issue. Cost is not really an issue. So really it's down to branding and trust and performance. What about performance? Are we on equal ground?
I did 2 shootouts this week. So, it's fresh in my mind. I'm not going to
Yeah.
name the brands, obviously, because I have, respect for both of them, the highest level of respect for those brands.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you
Can I name them?
what's, yeah, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we went into a place that was very focused on a singular brand, has been that way for a long time. We set it up with their staff. So they deployed the system, and then they deployed their own system after. Then they listened to the system. Now, in any premium product, if you level match it, right, so that you have a fair comparison, you're going to hear frequency band or some portion of the range where you're like, you know what, I like the breathiness of the female vocal a little bit more with this product, but it's a game of inches, right? It's not going to be a scenario where like, wow, that one was terrible compared to that other one. We're not in that era anymore. Every loudspeaker sounds incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they took the PAs down.
It's funny. It's the same thing with lighting right now. Like it's all good, whether it was made in Indonesia or in America, it's all good.
They're all great brands. So, and then you walk out and you go, okay, you're sitting there now. The CEO comes in, he's doing his evaluation. He turns around and asks the staff, what did you guys think? In every single, I wish I'd filmed it. Every person in the warehouse said, I prefer the tonal balance of PK, but I like both of them. Okay. I like both products, but I preferred PK for one reason or another. When it got to the setup, they were just like, please buy PK. You have no idea how much easier it was to set up. They got the PA up in 30 seconds. It took us almost an hour to get the same PA up, a box hang from another brand, right? So, it's kind of it's a game of inches here, but like in terms of the life for deploying this thing, it makes your life so much easier. We just finished the Mega Moroni tour. OSA deployed it. We're launch a video soon, but the tech that's on it's doing it one man. Full arena tour, one person.
Really? Holy shit.
Yep.
I've never even heard of that.
I've never heard of it
That's
either.
crazy.
So
that is crazy.
They did 12 hangs on the Dave Chappelle North American Tour, OSA, 2 techs.
Wow.
2 hours.
That is incredible.
Yeah. Because it goes up straight. So, is out of the way. Right. Everything else looks legacy on day 2.
Okay. So the argument that I heard to that was, Marcel, I got to be honest with you. Because I said, but, wouldn't it be amazing if you could just adjust the boxes in the air? And he said, I got to be honest with you. There's not a time I can think of when I needed to do that. Not once.
Whoever said that was a CEO, right?
It was a front of house engineer.
A front of house engineer. So has a system tech?
What's that?
Someone with a system tech doing that?
Probably multiple. Yeah. Probably an S1 and S2 and S3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You only need an S1 in this case and maybe a guy sitting in the bus. But there are very few people, particularly when you get down to corporate AV, where you're like, we don't have this covered perfectly. And and their answer is, I'm not going to change it. It's too much work. Okay.
Yeah.
You compromise in that statement. I don't care who you are. If you do a simulation of any given environment in the digital world, whether it's with sound vision, with array calc or with PK dynamics, it's never the real world. So you go and you fly something and the trim height's different. Okay. Dave Chappelle's tour is an exact example of this. Hey, they're using IMAG on the scoreboards, right? So, hey, this PA's in the way. We're going to have to drop the trim height 12 feet. And
but you wouldn't know that in advance?
No, they changed their mind on site. You're going, look, my sight lines are screwed up. the drawing wasn't right. And so they go, "Don't worry about it," was the answer. "Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Put the trim height wherever you need it, and you make the adjustments while it's up in the air." Any other PA, you're bringing down 12 hangs, repinning everything, sending it back up. And so whoever that person is that made that comment probably has someone doing it for them and
Yeah.
can stand back. But when you're an SE and you go, "Oh, I'm not covering this area. Is anyone going to notice?" You don't have a choice anyways. You keep your mouth shut. If you have the ability to make that adjustment, that's when you show it off and talk about it.
Yeah. So that would tell me the same thing that I said to Jeremy 3 years ago is it's only a matter of time,
It's only
before everyone sort of leans this direction, because it only makes sense. I mean, if that really is the case where you can have one guy hanging the rig, I mean, that's incredible to me. But let me ask you the sort of reverse of the question. So how often, and be honest, how often on a typical tour are you going to need to adjust the system after it's hung?
every single deployment because
Really?
as
And that's because you can, though, partially,
well,
right?
partially.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
in an environment, right, and you have the ability to steer the horizontal directivity of the system.
Yeah.
There's one other product with very small paddles that allows you to do it manually. Okay.
Yeah.
You can set that and forget it and do the same thing you would with the normal line array. In this case, you have the ability to take it from 120 degrees to 60-degree narrow on a single skew, right?
Yeah.
You're not mixing and matching inventory. You have the total flexibility on a skew level to deploy a system. Now, it's not just, hey, I'm going to go and make it 120 or 60. I can also go asymmetrically off a wall. I can use the top of the PA and go to 60 degrees and feather it down to 120 degrees at the bottom. That's what you do with your inventory if it's available. I take the 60-degree boxes and the 120 and divide them into the array, and I deploy it. Maybe it's 110 and 70, depending on the brand, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, if you run out of inventory of the 70-degree box, you go, well, we'll use the 120. There is never, ever a scenario where you're not going to robotically adjust the horizontal in an arena, in a corporate ballroom, in a high school gym. If you have the flexibility to do it to remove reflections, then you've got to do it.
Yeah. Well, again, because you can, and why wouldn't you? It's like using a fine tuner on something. Because you have that knob, you might as well use it, and it makes it better. So I completely get that, and I understand that and agree. I think maybe the person I spoke to, yes, was fairly old school, and therefore was like, I would never in a million years have to do that. And in other words, what he's saying is, don't even talk to me. I'm not changing my K2 rig that I've been using for years, or my J series, or whatever it was. And that's that, right? So not everyone's a buyer at the end of the day. Like, not everyone's looking for the latest thing, right?
No, they're not. I mean, you've got your name behind a brand. You make that 10-year investment. You're at year 5. You're actually going to consider another investment in new infrastructure inventory. The answer is no, thank you. If I'm a new
Yeah.
company and I'm like, hey, I just want to buy a loudspeaker, I need something that has great brand presence. There are 2 or 3 options that'll go, hey, Coke, Pepsi, or RC Cola, which one are you taking? And then there's alternate options. In the ACT world, we go for something that's 15% better than anything that's available in the market, right? Yes, it is
Right.
expensive, but you give yourself a technological advantage. If you come to ACT, you almost get it across every product offering that we have, is it's a market leading device in its category. And
Yeah.
we typically focus on just one product in that category. And so from that standpoint, really it's when we talk about that balance between product and people with ACT.
Yeah.
You have this group of human beings that's incredibly connected. They understand you drive that network by being trustworthy, introducing that technology, and the product mix that excites this group, right? Hey, we have the best shit available and our
Yeah.
customers know it. And when you
Yeah.
have that mix, it's a different story. It's like,
So I'd add a third P to that. So you got product, people, and pressure. So, go cut a deal with Metallica, like what Meyer did, and or with Rush, a Canadian band, who's hot again right now, at least for the moment. And, you know, like, I just think that presence, and branding and stuff for PK, it's only a matter of time. Like to me, it really is only a matter of time because the product is good. I think the company mentality and philosophy for doing things the right way is good. You know, I spent a bunch of time in the factory, and maybe not as crazy over the top as Brock, but very much focused on quality and doing the right thing versus cutting corners. Um, so yeah, I think it's only a matter of time. Like it makes a huge amount of sense, and I think the ACT move was a great move for them, and it was a strong move by ACT to, you know, put out that kind of an investment and wait to get the money back over time. And but I do think they'll get it back because at some point, like the other thing I've seen is the audio business isn't quite as loyal as it used to be. Like I see more and more companies who have both D&B and L-acoustic, or they might have one Meyer rig, two L-acoustic rigs, and a D&B rig or something, you know? It's less like we are a D&B house than it used to be.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
they're just less strategic than they used to be, right? They're going, well, my customer's demanding one or the other. I bought the D&B rig at some point because it was on a rider and I would have lost the tour without it. So I made the
yeah,
investment and I split my inventory. You know, there's very few rental companies that aren't going to go after mission critical devices if a customer wants it, right? So
yeah,
there comes a point where you have to make a decision. Am I a JBL house or an L Acoustics house or a D&B house? Or am I going to open up the door to other options? And when
yeah,
you make that, you're making that decision knowing that 10-year investment cycle's in your head, the relationships are in your head, the
yeah.
infrastructure's in your head, and who's going
See,
to.
I've always been that guy. I've always, when everybody goes left, I like to go right. You know, I've always been that guy. I don't own a sound company, sorry, but I've always been that guy. Like I like to go to the smaller company, work closely with them on helping to develop that product and helping to develop the market, and they're helping me at the same time, obviously. And those types of relationships to me are just massive wins. You know, it's just like that's where, like, instead of just being another, you know, sort of notch in L Acoustics bedpost or whatever, like L Acoustics and D&B, I would assume are a lot more corporate today. I would assume are a little more difficult to do business with than they used to be. They're not quite as friendly maybe as they used to be. Um, so, you know, I think the door is wide open, and as long as you personally, James, don't screw it up, I think you're going to be wildly successful.
Thankfully,
No pressure though.
I've never screwed up a thing in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that makes two of us. So the other, you know, really small and unimpressive line that you just recently got was Avid, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Just,
that was a bit of a coup, or like that was just like, whoa,
yeah,
like we need a console. Okay, well, you got Digico and you got Avid.
yeah,
Digico's gone.
yeah.
You know, that was big. That was a bold move.
Well, I mean, we only make bold moves, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But I think the relationship's another natural one. It's like, you know, you start to set up the infrastructure behind one product, adding another to the mix benefits both of them, right? Whether
yeah,
it's personnel or whether it's product association. You know, there's few places in our industry where signal chain needs more than in the audio category, right? And having those market leading devices in input, output, and, you know, balance, you know, that's the logical step for us.
yeah.
So, you know,
Well, and it doesn't suggest that every company that uses PK is going to use Avid consoles with it or has to use Avid consoles with it or whatever.
not at all.
It's just it positions you better as a audio company. Like if you just have one product, you're not really an audio company. You're just the PK sound distributor, right?
Yeah.
But now you're an audio company. Like
With
you've got a package.
And the nice thing about both products with PK is AVB Milan endpoints in every loudspeaker, and Avid also has Milan, right? We talked about the world of interoperability and products working seamlessly. It doesn't matter if you have Digico or you have Avid or you have L Acoustics P1 or PK Sound. All these products are designed now to be interoperable, to network together over an open source platform. So the future of where we're going, as long as you select the correct products, means that you don't have to necessarily buy one product or the other, but they technically all work together. from Act's standpoint, let's just go get the market leaders or those who have the potential to become market leaders, and then use our infrastructure to put them in a stronger place than they were yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, again, Avid, like if I look at, the two consoles that we sell the most on the used market, well, the third being Yamaha, of course, but Avid and Digico are obviously right up there at the top. And Avid being more of the sort of audiophile kind of guy, like I really care about my sound. I'm going to use only the, whatever S6L or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. And it's the more snobby brand in a sense, but not from a price standpoint, but just from a user standpoint, it seems to be the more, like I really give a damn.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
it's always had this, and it has an incredible workflow, an incredible tool set that goes with it.
yeah.
Um,
Sound passed me over so long ago because like, I remember when we went from JBL W bins to the Martin Philishave system, and you could really hear the difference.
yeah.
And then I remember my first line array I heard, you could really hear the difference. Since then, everything to me sounds pretty damn good, whether it's Vertec with a frickin' Mackie console or I know that sounds ridiculous, but or L Acoustic with an Avid console. To me, it all sounds really, really good at this point.
Yeah, when your job depends on you only doing audio
Of
and making
course.
all the right decisions, that's when it's a game of inches or, frequency band or whatever you want to call it, where
Yeah.
you really fine detail and going, look, I know my vocalist, it sounds great in this register. Which product should I use to properly, represent
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
decision?
So have you got like Sennheiser now coming on, or have you got a mic line yet?
Well, like I said, so output, input, and balance are the most logical directions to go.
Right.
Anything in between that, not exclusively, this is not an exclusive statement, but often is dictated by trends, right?
Yeah.
Right, as soon as
That
you go
makes
to
sense.
physics, that's where it becomes more challenging and you're choosing products based on what's popular.
Plus they're smaller sales and they're a pain in the ass. So you might as well stick with the big bits.
Yeah, well, I'm not opposed to little bits either. Everybody gets
Yeah.
able.
Yeah. Well, it seems to have done well for sure in Sennheiser. But yeah, well, I mean, congratulations on all of that. Obviously, it's amazing. It's fun to watch. I love every time I see a press release come across, saying so and so used the PK uh, rig for whatever, and I like it. I feel like I was sort of there at the foundation of that. I watched the baby being born.
No question in my mind, you were part of that history.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd love to pick your brain a little bit, just really on, well, first of all, global business versus, because you've always been more of a global guy, focused on selling product all over the world. And now you're really just focused US or North America?
So technically not anymore. So this hasn't been announced yet, but I will take a more global role with that shortly.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, of course, because they have Ambersphere and God knows what else they're looking at.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we acquired TV One Green Hippo.
right.
They joined the group. So media servers and processing, you know,
Interesting.
yeah. So
Interesting.
like I said, very ambitious organization with global aspirations. There's a reason I'm a good fit here.
Yeah. Well, good for you. That's fantastic. Congratulations. This won't be out for a week or so. So by then it'll probably be old news and there will be a press release and
Maybe not.
people will be like, who cares? I heard about that like 2 days ago. You know how fast the news moves now with the internet and stuff. Well, that's fantastic. Good for you. Good for Ben. Good for everyone there. I'm happy for you. Um, and so like marketing a brand like a PK when you're focused on just the North American or US market versus the global market, is it easier or harder?
This is a strangely, confusing question for me because I thought it would be easier.
Right.
And I used all of the tactics that I've developed to build global distribution, which has been my bread and butter since I started my career, right? How do I package products in so the signal chain is from the factory so we can educate people and make sure inventory is delivered in the same way every single time, and then bring it to the global markets with consistent messaging and create buzz and excitement around it, right? in the North American market, it's so big, right, compared to the rest of the world, that and so much broader in terms of influence and scope and like conversations, so cutting edge in every scenario. I spent my first year at ACT going from what I know to what they know in a full circle, and I
Yeah.
learned where they know.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
like year 2 will be vastly different for me at ACT, where I just go, now I understand it. Like our head of sales, Doug Mechanic, he leads the best sales team I've ever worked with in my career. And watching them work, with regional sales managers placed, they have very specific geographic regions, because if you want to go beyond the top tier companies and get to the B and C level, what we'd see is like B or C level sort of in size, right? You need people there. You need them on the
Yeah.
ground. You need to know them as well as you know the A companies. You need to treat them the same way, because, in fact, their investment is so much more of their capex and such a more pressured decision for them. Oh my God, we're going to buy PK, or we're going to splurge on an Avid console. These are not cheap devices.
Those are life decisions.
They're
Yeah.
life decisions. They're mortgage-sized decisions. Do we buy a building, or do we buy loudspeakers this year? So if you want the same results in those markets, you need people with the same level of relationships that you treat, Ed Sheeran's front of house guy with. You treat the same, the guy who owns a small company in Omaha the exact same way.
Yeah.
So, they've done that exceptionally well on the lighting side, and the company's exploded because of it. Because
Yeah.
you're in not that just, selling a product. You have relationships with these people. You understand what makes them tick, and you can bring it back to the group.
Well, and I know in the lighting business, like I made a living doing what you're talking about. You're going to get the 12 light sale every day or two,
Yeah.
and the 100 light sale every 30 days or whatever, right? So like you're not going to get those every single day, but you got to fill every single day with business. Otherwise you're going to lose your job at some point, right? So you do have to focus on the whole range of customer, not just the biggest one in the territory.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is a balance, and they do have a great sales team. I really, really like, I like Doug a lot, but I also like all the guys out there too. They're a good team.
Yeah, no,
So,
that part's been awesome to work with those guys. And then, we added Bob Boniel to the video
yeah,
category this
yeah,
year. He's, really leading the charge for all of ACT brands now in terms of product, and, learning from people of that caliber, right? And, calling them my peers, working with them is such a different experience, because like, PK, even Adamson, it was very much like it felt homegrown. Like I'm making decisions on the fly. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Here, you're really factoring in, exceptional partner brands, incredible ACT brands that we own. We haven't even talked about Rapco Horizon yet.
yeah,
Like, oh my God, we own the biggest cable plant in North America. Like the products that come out of there are in everyone's guitar bin somewhere. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
It's just
So true.
this group of humans that are all the best in their craft, working to try to unite, ACT, and really expand globally here now, and put ourselves into a different position where we could take that North American success story, and in the UK, Amberspheres had the same success story on the lighting side, and really
Yeah.
start to put that footprint and DNA everywhere else.
So you may not be able to answer this, but is Ambersphere going to become PK in the UK?
To be honest with you, no, there's no plans yet.
Okay.
Naturally,
Yeah, they are a lighting company at this point, so
yeah,
they'd obviously have to evolve a little bit as well too.
yeah, we haven't made any decisions either way, and neither is PK. It's up
Yeah.
to them.
I mean, it's not just an idea, obviously, of just throwing in some inventory into the warehouse and going, okay, guys, now go sell it, like marketing plans and sales plans. And, you got to get out there. You got to become known as an audio brand. That probably took a year for ACT just to be looked at and go, oh, yeah, you guys do have audio stuff now,
Yep.
So switching channels here a little bit. So, you know, you're on top of probably two of the more, I'd say, technologically advanced lines in the audio business. So where do you see professional audio and even call it live production evolving over the next, call it 5 years? And, let's have the AI discussion separately, perhaps, because I want your take on that one too.
So, we're in this weird era of IT professionals trying to be audio people. Okay. And this is going to
That is
bleed.
true. All the networking. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the networking discussion's interesting, right? Where I see it going in the next 5 years is you're going to see everything on the stage has a Cat 6 cable or Cat 5 cable, right? So we've started to standardize our cable infrastructure, right? And this is the first step to interoperability. Now there's endpoints in every device for the most part that's on the stage, right? The ability to communicate down to the device level, right? Still, we're working on industry protocols, whether it's in the video category with ST2110, if we go into the lighting world with, MANet, or I don't know the lighting world as well yet, but, or the audio world where you get into Milan, for example, or Dante. There's still this competitive nature that's starting to resolve itself within each one of the categories. I think in the next 5 years, you'll start to see a top level protocol that will allow you to control devices across the board.
Interesting.
Now, this is the setup for the AI discussion, okay?
You're saying like multidisciplinary devices. So audio, lighting.
And video. Now, only from a network protocol standpoint.
Right. So it won't be one console for everything. Well, maybe eventually it will once you add AI into the mix.
I
Who knows?
speak to that one way or another, but I can assure
Yeah.
you every console manufacturer on the planet's thinking about it. In
Yeah.
another.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, let's dive headfirst into this thing. I'm very involved in AI. I've built an AI company now. And, Bonial and I have had all kinds of AI discussions over the past few years. He and I think, were two of the people among all the naysayers and fearmongers who have just kind of got on our way and adapted AI into our everyday lives for the past couple of years at least. But I see our industry really holding it back right now. Like I
Yeah.
see so many industries have already got AI, in whether it's in cars or in, home appliances, televisions, whatever it is, computers, phones. And, but in our industry, it appears, and like if I look at MA, for example, you would think that MA is a company that is ripe for, you know, some AI stuff being put into those consoles. But because designers and programmers are so adamant about not having those products in there, that it's going to destroy creativity and it's going to ruin jobs and it's going to, just change things in a terrible way. Um, and this is just a gut feeling. Nobody's actually told me this from a lighting console manufacturer. And I shouldn't say MA, call it Hog, call it anybody. Um, I just keep watching for the first company to say, you can program your console now by voice, uh, using very generalized terms. I want a really subtle red look that kind of focuses on this or that with lights on, both guitar players and the drummer and, whatever. Like you can just explain something and ba-boom, there's the look.
Yep.
And now I want it to transition into this on a 4 count or whatever. Like I'm making stupid stuff up because I'm not a lighting designer, but you know, audio, I think, is even probably more ripe for it, where you just have, and I'm going to sound really stupid here again because I am when it comes to audio, but you could just have a bunch of microphones positioned around the room. The audio system tests itself, sets the system up the way it needs to. It already knows all the music. It knows the nuances of the music. It knows the breaks. It knows everything. And you now have no front of house engineer.
So everyone in the manufacturing world is thinking about it.
Yeah.
You make this work. The first question you asked me was a perfect setup for it. How do we talk to our devices if they're not interoperable? And
Yeah.
until we solve this equation as an industry, which will take a long time, it will be only closed ecosystems in which you're going to have that type of control with
That's true.
prompts being indicated and something happening in real time, right? I can't speak to what any specific manufacturer is doing. Really, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you either way
Yeah.
at this stage, but I do know what will happen already is our industry will first start to look to unify protocols. If they can't do it, the most logical use of AI is to put all the protocols into an AI bucket and have it understand what it's talking about, no matter what language it's speaking. Whether
Yeah.
it's Dante or Ravenna, Milan, ST2110, AI will determine what that protocol should be saying to the other protocol and help translate for it. That's my guess. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
Once
Yeah,
that happens,
because you have to solve for that first before you can solve for the crazy things that I'm talking about where a console just runs itself.
well, everybody goes, okay, well, here's the use case for AI, not
Yeah.
how does it actually functionally work, right? Where does it
Right.
practically need? So when you ask me, like we started the conversation, we're currently an industry of IT professionals learning to be audio and video and lighting guys. I think that will then switch again. Once we
Hmm.
find an AI platform that can figure out that IT language for us, it will eliminate that position. And creativity will come back on force, where you have the ability to do that prompt command to have one guy set up the PA and then make it tune it perfectly with the support of AI. But until
Hmm.
we resolve that interoperability discussion, we're never going to get to the point that you want to, which is, hey, make the lights like imagine a pastor walking into his church and going, I want this to be at speaking volume for my congregation with a blue light coming from the heavens down on me. If he can make that comment without a sound guy, that's a sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it really is interesting. I never really thought about, though, you're right, like getting all the protocols to, you have a box where they all come in and then they come out the other end unified.
Here's my plug. If
And
you've developed that software technology, call me.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it doesn't sound that complicated, to be perfectly honest, just because AI is really good at situations like that. It's really good at taking in 20 different data points and spitting out one.
it's incredibly complicated because when we're reserving bandwidth for the devices in the signal chain, and every manufacturer who's helped participate building these platforms, it has to be 96K or it has to be
Oh, yeah.
all of these different protocols.
Very challenging. Yeah.
You have to go through the same tube.
Yeah.
At the end
Well,
of the day.
screw you sound people then. We're going to work on it in lighting
Well,
because
that's what they're saying right now. Screw you,
yeah.
we're doing it in lighting. Screw you, we're doing it in video. Screw
Yeah.
you, we're doing it in sound. And I predict in the next 5 years, someone will come up with a technology that says, you know what, chuck it in the bucket and let's see what happens. And somebody will then go, turn the lights on, and it'll go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming. I mean, it's definitely coming. The other challenge that we have, I've been involved in our industry and also in motorsport, and they're both really small industries. And so to get technological advancements in those small industries is much more challenging because, like in a phone, you're instantly rewarded with, $100 billion in phone sales or something, right? Whereas in our industry, okay, you're going to sell 10 or you're going to sell 20 or something. It's hard to get your cash back on those huge investments for that technology. It's tough.
No, I agree.
It's really, really tough. So you're going to be doing this X Live thing with us. Well, it's actually with LDI. I'm just helping them a lot myself and Jake Berry helped them to really sort of put together the format and pull some people into it and stuff. And so we're very involved in it. And it also happens right before my Dining with Dinosaurs event,
Awesome.
which is going to be friggin' crazy. Like, I can't believe the quality and level of people that we have going there this year.
It's awesome.
But you're on a panel called Road to Success. And I mean, honestly, again, blowing smoke up your skirt, you've obviously hit some fairly successful points in your career, specifically in the lighting or in the audio business, I should say, where you've risen to the top of a couple companies at this point. So what are have you got any idea on what some of the topics or stories you might discuss at X Live? Remembering that a lot of the people who are going to be there, first of all, you're at a bit of a disadvantage because most of them will be lighting people. So you're going to be speaking Chinese to them at this point. And, but a lot of them are going to be new to the industry because the passes for X Live are included with the young professionals, I think it's called, a young
Okay.
professionals badge.
Yep.
So I think they've already confirmed like 140 young professionals are going to be at the event.
Perfect.
So I know you just pulled up your notes because I watched you do it, but what are some of the topics or stories you might cover with these folks?
I mean, there's a few different things, like, depending on where the panel discussion goes, right? I mean, I actually read one of the questions was, what's something somebody said to you that really helped shape or define your career? From my standpoint, I really struggled with that question. I was like, who do I honor with this badge of, like, saying something so so valid that it's shaped
Yeah.
my career? I really thought about it, and last couple of weeks, I was explaining a story to somebody. I'm like, you know what? That might be it, right? This moment, I'm sitting at the table. Brock is sitting there, right? Somebody walks in, head of marketing at this stage. It was really early in my career. And she says to him, she goes, "What's your problem? I'm in marketing. I'm not supposed to sell products." And he got up and he goes, "If you're in marketing and you don't know how to sell fucking products, get out of my company."
Wow.
And so I thought about that. It was a really intense environment, but I came back to it. And I'm like, yeah, I have never met a person who understands marketing who doesn't know how to sell. You have to
Yeah.
understand your customer inside and out. You have to understand, psychologically what makes people make decisions and what makes great products that help people say, "Oh my God, that's worth my time and my effort to get behind." And watching that moment, like, I lead marketing teams now, and it's like, it's always a part of my conversation. You have to understand what you're working on, what products you're using, how they're meant to work, or else you'll never be able to talk to the people that use them with a level of knowledge or communicate messaging that makes them excited about it. Yeah, so it was one of the stories that came back to me,
That's so true, and I love that whole concept about, you're in marketing. Of course, you need to know how to sell. And it reminds me back to motorsports. So one time my son was in karts and he was doing a race in Daytona. And uh, AJ Allmendinger was there, at the time, a NASCAR driver. And he did a speech for these kids, and my son was 8 at the time. And he did a little talking thing and then a Q&A for them. And one of the older karting drivers was like 16 or something, 17. And he said, might have been 18 even. He said, "I'm getting ready to leave high school and go to college, but I want to continue my driving career. What are some courses I should take in college?"
Mm.
And AJ said, marketing and PR. And all these kids were like, "What? Marketing and PR?" And the thing is, at the end of the day, as a driver, most of what you're going to be doing is selling yourself to a team, selling yourself to a sponsor, selling yourself to. So marketing and PR are two of the things that are going to become most important to your career, not the things that you would think, engineering and math and, driving. It's really figuring out how to convince people to believe in you.
Yeah. No,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more.
yeah. What about like trends or innovations in the market that you'll talk to these kids about? So again, kids, they could be 25, they could be 40 years old. I don't know, but they're new to our industry. So, any like direction that you might think of going as far as like, touring is going this direction. I mean, obviously, you could talk about the automation in your speaker systems as compared to systems that don't have that, and how you can do those micro adjustments and stuff. Well, more than micro adjustments, really. But anything else you can think about, like trends or innovations in touring, especially?
That's a good question. I'm gonna have to think about it a little bit more in terms of how to frame
Yeah,
the group, because I mean, now that you say, it's going to be primarily lighting people that are in the audience, I really want to frame that in a more generalist tone.
yeah.
So I'll think about that. And
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to have on the panel, I don't remember exactly who's on your panel, but, there's going to be people who are in all sort of disciplines, right? So I'm sure there's a production manager on the panel. I'm sure there's, there's going to be all kinds of different people, including lighting.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the idea I really believe is to look at successful people in the industry and talk to these younger folks who are coming into the industry about that path, like the sort of types of things that you want to be focused on to sort of get from here to here.
Mm.
Like you can't just walk in and say, okay, I want to make $200,000 next year. You got to have sort of a path to that journey that gets you there. And so some of the, real life lessons like that are important to me, and I hear it so often on my podcast from designers or production managers or managers or whatever who have made it. It's always similar things, it's say yes a lot and then figure it out. Just be a doer, like always raise your hand when somebody's looking for help, stuff like that. Like just the real sort of hardcore values, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could pull any one of them out of your hat if you like. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, growth isn't linear, whatever you want to say.
Right.
You need to fail as
Absolutely.
much as possible, and that's the best thing you can do. We can take some
Yeah.
of these more generalized themes, but I'm
Yeah.
think through that because everybody says the same thing over and over at this stage in the world. So it's like, I'll probably talk to some of my stories, but like, I've spent my whole career just saying fuck it, get my hands dirty. And
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm peeling, shit off the floor or, designing a campaign or advising a board of directors. I get right into the middle of everything. And that's like you mentioned this, like every single company I've been in, I've risen to the top. Why? Because I'm a bit fearless in that sense. I don't mind getting spanked if I do something wrong. It's part of that process of learning. The worst thing you can be is quiet, right?
Yeah.
You can sit in
I
the
agree.
corner and do nothing in your life, or you can be an absolute asshole like me. And at least you're going to get yourself into a position where it's way more entertaining. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've always done the same thing. Like I've just, some of it is just being uncomfortable. Like I'm always uncomfortable. I never find comfort,
That's a
you know.
t-shirt right there.
It's so true. I mean, I'm always uncomfortable.
Mm.
And so, like, if I'm in a job, I'm already looking at the next job or 3 jobs up the line because I'm not comfortable in this job. Like, I'm just, so there's always a better place that I need to be, or a bigger place, or a smarter place, or whatever it is, whether it's in my own business or when I worked for other companies as
Mm.
well. And yeah, so I agree with what you're saying. Um, so outside of work, how do you or do you still continue to stay connected to sort of that creative side, where you were a musician? I don't know if you still play music for fun or anything, but do you stay or the creative on the advertising stuff? Do you stay connected at all to that creative side?
I mean, so creativity is a word often used for the arts, right? But I am extremely creative in the corporate world. I
Yeah.
never just go at something and go, okay, we have to do it like they've done before. I always look at everything from left, right, and upside down. So my view is like my creativity's transitioned from being on stage as an artist to, whatever I've done creatively in my career to now being in a situation where it's like, the world starts to get a little bit gentrified where it's the same ideas are being regurgitated because of the algorithm. It's like, how do we break out of this cycle? And I'm obsessive with that discussion and trying to figure out what's next. Where are we headed?
I love that.
How do we
Yeah.
screw up the sediment?
Yeah. Who have been some of your mentors?
This is another tough one because at one point, didn't have great relationships with these people, but when you look back on what they did for me in my life, there's no argument about it. So, lead singer of the Strumbellas is Simon Ward, one of the best songwriters I've ever worked with. Brock Adamson, without a doubt, in terms of building companies and infrastructure and products. And I would say absolutely Ben Saltzman, his ability to take all of these elements and piece them together into a really unique and definable brand for a distributor, which is not something you see every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and by the way, so some of my mentors are people that I absolutely despised at the time.
Yeah.
But when I look back at my career, that's where I learned the most stuff. Like that's where I'd get really pissed off and go, fuck that guy. And I'd walk away and, "No, fuck that guy. I'm going to quit my job tomorrow."
I think
And then
that's
I'd
the
go home and
indicator.
I'd think, and it'd be like,
Yeah.
maybe he's on to something. I'm going to try and figure that out in the morning.
Well, if it keeps you up at night, then it's probably a good indicator that that person's stirring something,
Yeah.
So if they keep
Yeah.
you up for 7 years, maybe it's time to move on, but
Some of my toughest or some of my best learnings have come from the toughest situations. Whether again it's in my own company or like you don't learn as much from success as you do from failure or from adversity. So when you're in challenging situations with challenging people, that's when you grow as a individual, a professional, a CEO, whatever your role is in life,
yeah, and I
I
guess
think.
if you're sitting on a panel with the people I am, then you were able to withstand that pressure and turn it into something special. So for that, I thank you. And for that, I'm really honored to be a part of this because,
Yeah.
I think even though, it's labeled success, well, the panel's, successful
Road to
career,
success.
road
Yeah.
to success. Thank you. Really, it feels like the start for me. Really
Yeah.
feels like I'm going to keep being the same stubborn, until I'm
Well,
90.
you're on the road. It doesn't mean you're at the end of the road to
Yeah,
success.
absolutely.
You're on the road and you're doing really well. You're
Yeah,
headed in the right direction. So, just sort of one final question.
sure.
What what are you most excited about both personally and professionally over the next few years?
Good question. This is a weird one because I look at my life and I'm like, I've achieved everything. Like I got a nice house, I got a good family, they're all healthy. I had a great career. I'm still a part of the ownership of PK. You know, I'm in a very privileged position in my life now. Um, so it's, you start to get into your 40s and you go, oh, I'm getting a little soft, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've achieved so much at this stage. But I think the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is over the next 5 years, I don't think we're going to recognize this planet. Um, the advancement of technology and it won't happen first in our side of the world, our industry, but the speed in which it's moving to cure disease, to advance major climate change initiatives, to break technology, genome testing, whatever it is, it's going to happen at such an incredibly fast pace now, and we'll all be the benefactors of it in one way or another, and we'll all be terrified as it's happening. And that, like you, I love being where I'm uncomfortable, and it's going to get extremely uncomfortable.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, I mean, just grab one of those Waymos or the robo taxis or whatever. Sit in a car without a driver and you'll be like, holy shit. Like the world
We're
is
here.
going to a weird place.
No, it
You
is
know.
weird. We are here. It is the Jetsons. We
Yeah.
yeah.
It's coming so fast right now. And it's, I pay a huge amount of attention to AI because again, I have an AI company. I continue growing AI into my businesses and stuff. But, you know, 2 years ago, they were saying, we're 10 years to AGI. And then we're 8 years, 7 years, 5 years. Now it's like by the end of 2026, we're going to be seeing, a huge amount of AGI. And it's just wild. And like you said, the advancements in healthcare and robotics and all of these things, like I have a very good friend who had robotic AI cancer surgery
That's
uh,
unbelievable.
6 months ago, and he's cancer free now, thank God. And so, yeah. And people ask me, like my fiance and I have this conversation all the time. Would you rather have an AI pilot of your airplane or a human pilot of your airplane? AI 100%. Would you rather have an AI surgeon doing heart surgery on you or a human surgeon? 100% AI, And so I think a lot of those most critical jobs, it seems really obvious that they're going in that direction, robotics and AI, because we need them to,
We need
you
it.
know, and certainly anything that involves research, because research that took 10 years now can be done in a week,
Oh,
you
and
know,
the amount of information and projects I can take on as a single human being now,
wild,
it's
wild. It is wild. And I don't know, do you use HubSpot?
We used to.
Oh, because I use HubSpot in my companies, and ChatGPT and HubSpot just did a deal. And you can now go into ChatGPT and say, "Can you go into my HubSpot account and tell me how many deals are past, this stage, or how
Yep.
many new deals have come in this week, or
Yeah.
what's the average size of a new deal this week?" And you're doing that from ChatGPT, not even from HubSpot,
Yeah.
which scares the shit out of me where my data is going. But it's just wild. I don't know. I like to keep trying to think of where it's all going, but I don't even know.
No, it's going to be interesting. I think that, like, bring it back full circle here for a second. You look at the robotic aspect of PK Sound, the efficiency that it improves a deployment with. It really gets to a situation where you can have a highly specialized technician who understands inputs and, EQ curves and whatever. You don't need five technicians. You can spend a lot of money on a really good technician who understands that product inside and out when they deploy it. And so I think that there'll be, man and his machine,
Agreed.
in the next generation until they take us over completely.
Well, that's going to be the penultimate is a human supported by AI.
Yeah.
Not AI replacing the human, AI augmenting the human.
Yeah.
That's how I'm looking at it right now, but certainly a lot of roles are going to be replaced by AI because it just makes sense, customer service, for example. In a lot of simple customer service, not in an audio company or a lighting company necessarily, but you're calling the phone company or the cable company or something and waiting on hold 3 hours. Wouldn't you rather get on with AI instantly? Yeah.
Absolutely.
If it's smart,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing you in 9 or 10 days.
Yeah.
And, it'll be an interesting experience. We'll make sure that they ask some good, I'll actually sneak in there and put on, a set of dark glasses and a hat and a mustache, and I'll ask audio questions.
Perfect. I love it. Yeah.
I'll try and stump you on audio questions. I'll
And-
ask you some of the same questions I asked today, but I'll spin them a little bit
Yeah,
just
I
to
love
screw
it.
you up.
I love
Yeah.
it. Well, no, I've been doing the Ayrton training and I've been doing the MA training and I've
Oh, wow.
training. So by
Good for
this time
you.
next year, watch out.
You're a lighting guy. You'll be
Absolutely.
ruined for life. All right, James. It's been fun. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, man. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Thanks. GearSource was founded in 2002 with an ambitious mission to support live event businesses buy and sell gear globally. Since that time, the company has transacted in more than 100 countries, selling $250 million in sound, lighting, staging, and video gear. GearSource continues to evolve the platform for global growth, enabling localized currencies, fraud identification, protecting buyers and sellers, plus global logistics support through GearMoves. The company is developing new features, including GearSync, allowing you to manage up to 400 listings at once, and NeedZone, an automated shopping assistant for hard-to-find items. Take full control over your gear with a visit to gearsource.com today.